Alright, yeah, this here is the Kizer Begleiter. One of those knife names that, yeah, it's the first time you look at it, you're not quite sure exactly how to pronounce it. I've seen a lot of people call it the Bagleiter, and I don't really think it's spelled that way, so yeah, I'm gonna go with Begleiter. But yeah, this is a Kizer. Right now, the pocket clip is attached on the left side. That was kind of an experiment that I was doing a little bit, but yeah. As you can see, this one is in brown G10. Quite a rough texture kind of going on there. It's a little bit wider than Spyderco's peel ply texture, but around that same kind of grippiness. This guy's got dual thumb studs, and this one in particular is rocking VG10 steel and a pretty good stone wash kind of thing going on there. I do believe there's been quite a few variants and different handle materials and knife materials and whatnot. So yeah. Now, this guy does have liners that are proud of the G10. But it's pretty darn minimal compared to what you see on a lot of those things. So you do get a little bit less kind of purchase for your thumb and your fingers around there than you would if they weren't. But it still kind of gives you that aesthetic that they go for, and it affects it a little bit less than something like the artisan cutlery shark or something like that really has some shadow boxing going on there. So yeah, this is a fairly old design, and yeah, as you can certainly see here, that the plunge grind comes down right basically to where that is. Here, let me see if I can't adjust. There we go. That's much better. Just move my light over a little bit. So yeah, here you're basically going to get a little bit of a smile. I did on basically my first sharpen here because of just where that is. Doesn't really affect, the knife on it, but some people really don't like that smile kind of thing that you get going on there. So there is particularly that. The thumb studs on this thing are actually quite nice. They do remind me a bit of the Benchmade 940s. Speaking of which, I should probably do some comparisons. So the first up actually is the Benchmade 940. And it's a little bit larger. Obviously my 940's blade is not quite what it once was, but yeah, it's the Begleiter is just a little bit longer than this guy is. So there's that. Let's see, another fun one that I always like to pull out is the Kalashnikov 74. In this case, the Desert Warrior pattern instead of the Desert Warrior. But yeah, it's a little bit larger than that as well. Oh, let's see. I don't have a rat number 2, but I got a rat number 1, and it's in brown. And yeah, this is definitely going to be a little bit smaller overall, but the blade length is right around the same amount of cutting length kind of going on there. Let's see. I got another one here. How about the K-Bar Dozier Folding Hunter? Yeah, that's a little bit more compact. Let's see. We got a couple of Spyderco knives here. This is a PM2. And, yep, the handle on the PM2 is a little bit more. But as far as sharpen blade length and everything, yeah, this is packing a little bit more in there. And I guess to kind of close out the whole Spyderco thing, here is my Endura, which the blade is a little bit longer on the Endura there. Let's see. I can also compare it to a couple other Kizers. These are much newer designs. But that's the Grazioso that I've kind of swapped some things on. So yeah, this has micarta and copper rather than micarta and brass. And well, here's the swag swayback, which is quite a bit smaller, but certainly designed to be. So yeah, this is a fairly darn respectable length bladed knife, which is pretty darn fantastic. Now you do get a cutout here, but it's not scalloped or anything like that. I do kind of wish that they did, because you can really notice that that liner down there on your finger. Between that and the little bit of shadow boxing, I would probably say this thing is great for EDC tasks, but probably not your giant main workhorse, just due to some of those hotspots from pretty much the liners that kind of go around there. Also, I would suggest, if you are right-handed, you not put the pocket clip on the left side. It really does get right in there with your middle finger, so it's just not super great. Some people would probably ask, well, if you are right-handed, why the hell would you do that? Well, that's what I do with my Endura here, and that's because I carry it on my offhand, because it's just nice to have this thing as an offhand thing. Yes, this has a spider edge, so if I really need to get through some crazy materials, then this thing would certainly do that for me. But it's not the thing that I grab absolutely first. So that's kind of my thought on some of that. This guy is spider edge because a lot of times if I need to be cutting rope, sometimes Cat 5 cable or other kind of networking cable and stuff like that, this thing does a pretty darn good job for it. So yeah, just the clip kind of design on this isn't really great for carrying offhanded. But it is nice that you can do it both left and right-handed. Something that, certainly does. Yeah, it doesn't seem to happen all that often these days. A lot of people, a lot of designers, for whatever reason, is like, yeah, we'll totally put this giant lanyard hole in there. But left-handers, nah, screw that. That's going to mess up my aesthetics. I don't get it personally, but, whatever. It is what it is. But because of this design, it's a little bit older. The clip sits on top rather than nesting into the G10 there, which has the possibility of getting a little bit loose if the screws are a little bit loose. I fight constantly with my Benchmade 940 clip because of that. So, it's certainly not new to the industry, but yeah. Little tiny bit of a clip point kind of going up here in the front. Just a little bit of it. Well, yeah, just a little notch kind of taken out. Not really a fuller or anything like that. And that does help. Yeah, tip kind of comes down to a pretty decent point there. But not, absolutely brittle or anything like that. Now, something that I didn't remember about this knife when I picked it up is that, yeah, this thing was kind of around and made to be a little bit more of a budget offering before bearings in the pivot were really kind of the industry norm. So this does not have that. This does have... It's got a lot, but it has phosphor bronze washers and Teflon. However, they are set up a little bit differently, whereas the Teflon actually interfaces on the liners rather than interfacing on the blade, which I've seen most other companies do, like Cold Steel and whatnot. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Still, I mean, the action on it is super great for a thumb stud knife. It's it's not going to be drop shutty on you. It might get a little bit more loose over time, but generally when you have something with the Teflon washers there, they tend to not want to drop even over time. Whereas this guy, also on bronze washers, yeah, it will end up working in over time. So yeah, this one is in G10. Like I said, they've had a ton of different variants of this, if I remember right. I think the most common of these are G10 and micarta, and I could be wrong. I need to look that up again. But I want to say that that they use N690 for the steel on these kind of more often than this, which is VG10, which makes me kind of think that it's a little bit of an older version, but yeah, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I picked this guy up, super nice and cheap, from White Mountain Knives. Somebody had returned it because they said the blade centering was off. And, well, I mean, out of the box, I didn't really think it was really all that much off. Now, I have taken this apart and kind of did a little bit of maintenance on there and put it back together. And, yeah, I mean, it's still perfectly fine. So, you know, I don't really have any qualms with that. That and the fact that, you know, I ended up getting a Kizer Begleiter for a healthy sum of $34. I really couldn't argue with that. Yeah, this is a fairly iconic or classic design for Kizer at this point. It's been around for a long time. A lot of people really like it. And I haven't had one, so I did go ahead and pick this up. So yeah, I would like a little bit of a scallop sort of thing kind of going on the liner. I suppose I could probably try to, oops, hit that with my head. I suppose I could probably try to freestyle one of those in there because the liners are, you get enough meat, you could probably play around with that. We got barrel spacers in the back. And the blade comes absolutely nowhere near them. Can't really reach the blade tip there, and it is supremely buried in there. So yeah, no problems with getting your fingers all cut up or anything like that going on. So that's pretty fantastic. Something that I had just kind of noticed right before the video is I used the wrong pocket screw things for the pocket clip there, so you can see this guy sticking out a lot further than it should, which that's my fault. However, it doesn't actually hit the blade, so you know, this thing is a little bit foolproof, and this guy is definitely the fool in this particular case. But yeah, we can go ahead and pop this guy open, but I do want to get some measurements out of the way. Now we do have some skeletonization, some going on here, but this is not a lightweight knife. Let's see, so we got, yeah, 3.79 ounces, or 107.5 grams. This guy's always kind of a pain in the butt to try to read the blade length on, but I'm going to go a bit like so. It's millimeters. That's, yeah, 3.5 thereabouts for the blade. Now the cutting edge is going to be a little bit less because I generally like to measure basically from a flat of the handle, because if you're looking for length, you're really not going to be able to get it farther than that unless you shove the handle into whatever you're getting into. So, yeah. So it's, I guess, you know, if you really want to think about it, it's a little bit more, just slightly, than that ounce and inch kind of thing. But, yeah, it is a little bit on the heftier side here. I don't like fractions. Yeah, there we go. So, just shy of a half-inch wide. So that's going to be basically right around the same kind of thickness, minus like, you know, 1/100th of an inch here than it would be on the Spyderco PM2. So there is definitely that. And something that I do like that I will actually use millimeters for is the blade stock thickness, which is basically 3.15, 3.2, somewhere right around there. So yeah, fairly darn slicey. This is a high flat grind, or a full flat grind essentially. Yeah, and we do have a little spot behind the blade for the thumb stud to kind of keep it out of the blade path, which is kind of nice. Also a little nice for trying to sharpen this thing up as well. Something that I don't know if... No, I guess not. I haven't done it. Well, yeah, I have done that little tiny bits on the thumb stud on my 940 where I've... you can see the little shiny area of it, at least, where I've hit that on a stone a couple of times while sharpening. So yeah, I'm probably one of the absolute last people to kind of take a look at one of these things. Well, that's okay. I do, however, want to kind of show y'all a little bit more on the inside of this guy. So yeah, those are that for the pocket clip. Now the pocket clip screw, you do need to have basically, because it interfaces with the barrel spacer here. Making sure I'm actually taking it apart on the correct side for the pivot, because you know, I can screw that up. Now the pivot is going to be a T8, not a T6. All right, and we have these little pivot collars here. I do believe they are aluminum. Look at it, buddy. There we go. Yeah, and they are anodized, but it does look like they anodize it and then flatten out the other side of there. But yeah. So yeah, here we are on the inside here. And this is certainly something a little strange, but that's all my fault, really, of this blade stop pin here. It is certainly in there. However, it's designed to be fully screwed in. And you can see the head of a screw sort of thing is milled into the back there. So that is a little bit different than a lot of other knives. But yeah, and as you can see, I didn't put that back in. So I really botched the heck out of this when I took it apart. But yeah, we're going to continue kind of taking a look on the inside here. But that's going to require just a little bit of prying. There we go. The liners do like to stick to these barrel spacers a little bit. Okay. So, as you can see here, we got a whole lot of washers. Essentially, on each side, we have 2 phosphor bronze washers, and then the little Teflon film kind of guys, which I'm not the biggest fan of in general because they're fairly darn fragile. They're pretty easy to crease or something like that when you're trying to clean them up or put them back on a knife or whatnot. And yeah, I did something on this that, you know, it makes me feel good, but certainly not important to do. I did polish up all of these brass washers. Or, sorry, they're phosphor bronze. They're not brass. But, yeah, essentially what I end up doing, this is technically a mouse pad, but, you know, so I have them basically laying around everywhere. But if I am looking to polish washers or something like that, I can sit them down and then rub them in a circle on a mouse pad or anything else that's cloth and fairly tightly knit, and kind of go both sides, and you can actually feel if there is a burr on any of these things in particular. There was just a little tiny bit on them, so I ended up polishing them up with my leather strap. Does a fantastic job of polishing up washers because it's not super aggressive like a diamond or possibly even some ceramics would be. So it's going to take off much less. And yeah, I did that. Like I said, it's not important to do that. It didn't really help the action on it or anything like that. And a lot of that probably has to do with just the nylon washers there. And you can see this guy is quite burned at the edge here with the liner lock grind. It did have a little tiny bit of a burr there. I also took care of that with ceramic. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm not quite sure exactly if there actually was a particular reason why somebody needed to return this, or if it was just something that they wanted to do. But either way, I am certainly glad to accept that. Now we do have a D-shaped pivot going on here. And it is keyed, so it's not, so only one side really has the notch here. That's why I ended up taking this apart. A little bit different than a lot of others that I end up doing. Because I generally like to put the liner on, the lock side on last. But that's okay. Alrighty, that felt good going in. Don't take that out of context, please. Alright, and then, yeah. Grab this itty bitty little screw here. Okay, so that guy is back in place. All right, and then T8 for the pivot, of course. And yeah, I do want to put the pocket clip back on the correct side for me, or the right side here. And that will take a little tiny bit of manipulation of some screws. Notably that one. And is this one shorter? It is. Okay. So yeah, that shorter one, I do believe. Wow. It looks a little bit shorter. I'll put it on and take a look. So this will be the one that's not going to interface with the barrel spacer. And yeah, that looks great. Fantastic. Now I don't have a screw sticking out or protruding inside that would potentially mar the blade, but certainly didn't actually get there, so happy for that. All right, there is that. Don't you dare fall. At least the hardware on these are magnetic, so they're not 300 series stainless steel, so they are a little bit easier to find with magnet. That's just a little bit loose. Yeah. Not an enormous fan of blade play, as nobody really should be, but yeah. We're all back together, good to go, and I actually put everything back together correctly. So this is how it should have been when it was first seen. I lied to you. There's one more, since I forgot that side. All right. Yeah. At least Kizer does a pretty darn good job with their hardware. I haven't really had any problems with, any kind of, soft materials or stripping anything out. So that's all good. The clip works pretty well, as long as it's on the side that you want to grip. It does disappear, and a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that it's not a deep carry clip. You guys are probably familiar with the fact that I'm not exactly a gigantic fan of deep carry clips. I have one on this Endura that I showed earlier because, well, I guess mostly because I'm a little bit socially awkward. I've contacted Spyderco because I broke this clip, and because it's relatively easy to do if you catch it on some boxes in an inventory situation or whatnot. But yeah, asked them about it, and they're like, yeah, cool, we can sell you another clip, but we can't do it online. You need to call us and then tell us your credit card information over the phone, and then we'll do that. And because of that, I've avoided doing that for a little bit, and then ended up buying this Lynch clip instead, just throwing it on as an additional sort of thing. But yeah, this clip, like I'm saying, does do a pretty good job. It is, it doesn't have a crazy amount of tension there, which is why you tap on it and you can hear some little clicky clickies. Well, that was sad. But yeah, because of it having that rough texture there, it's going to be a lot like some other G10 knives that will do kind of the same things, like Spyderco PM2, Maddox 2, yeah, a lot of knives like that, where the clip will interface on rough G10. Emerson's are very, very famous for tearing the crap out of pants because of just how rough that G10 is. This one's not quite as bad, so there's that. If you have seen during the video, there's this little glint here, and that's actually a little nick in the liner. I don't know when that happened. I do believe it kind of came that way because I can't really think of when I would have done that myself. It might have been when I was picking up a few knives at the same time, and one hit the other or something like that. Oh well. But yeah, I do like this guy quite a bit. I really like the blade shape on it. You got a nice bit of belly out there in the front, a decent amount of fairly straight but still fairly curved, which I tend to prefer. I generally don't like something with a long flat edge, because that does kind of limit your cutting sort of things just a little bit. It's fine for doing some saber sort of things, but yeah, I mean it's mostly designed a little bit more for just full push grinds in that hammer grip. That's where a full flat section of blade, at least for me, is the most useful. So I do like that this has a little gradual curve that helps a little bit with leverage when starting cuts and all that sort of stuff. It's nice and thin in the pocket. And yeah, they're probably not super incredibly expensive. Like I said, I did get this one a bit of a discount as it was a return from somebody else. So I certainly got it for a great price at $34. But because of that, generally brown G10, not exactly my first choice for colors and material. But when you get that much of a good deal, I really can't pass it up. So yeah. Let's see. I don't think there's much else I really need to cover. This is an Azo design. They've done many for Kizer over the years. But yeah, just a pretty iconic knife with a relatively short blade as far as tallness, not length, which is pretty darn popular, especially for the EDC crowd. It's not quite as thin as, say, a Kershaw Leak or something like that. But yeah, I've been rambling probably way too long about this knife, but I do enjoy it quite a bit. But yeah, so this was fun. More of a blast from the past, as this certainly is not a new design whatsoever. But it's always interesting to see somebody else's takes on some knives. So yeah, as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo.